All right, all you nomads out there and part-time nomads, van lifers or otherwise, you all been talking about buying a home base. You talk about it almost every springtime, every summer. So I'm going to give my 2 cents worth. So stick around. Hi guys. So Ron and I, we went on a really long camping trip, and sorry about not uploading videos, but we were in places kind of on purpose where we didn't get service very well, and upload speeds were pretty bad. Um, if you guys watched the short that I put up like a few weeks ago, it's a good example of that. It looked like it came out of like 1985 or something. It was pretty terrible. Hopefully pretty soon I'll get a cell phone booster or something like that, so when we're on our trips I can keep you guys kind of updated. But just know that most videos that I do on purpose are not in real time. This one might be a little bit closer to real time because I'm trying to kind of catch you guys up, but most of the time my videos are at least a week old, if not older. So yeah, there you go. And just so you guys know, if you're worried, don't worry. Kitty was taken care of. We have a very gracious neighbor that comes by and takes, and checks on her and things like that. She's still pretty wild unless it's me or Ron, so she doesn't get very much petting or loving, but and that's her choice. But she does get food and water, and she's looked after while we're gone, so don't worry about that. In a perfect world, we would have adopted Kitty when she was a kitten and raised her to go in the van and all that good stuff, but that just didn't happen. And so I don't even know if we could ever train her to be a van cat. And quite honestly, nowadays I'm not like I was when I was younger. I have a really bad problem with cat hair now, so being in a small rig with an animal might not be a good idea for me. So yeah, thank you to my gracious neighbor. If you are watching, Renee, thank you for keeping an eye on our kitty and our place while we were gone. We did take a break in the middle of that and come back and regroup a little bit and checked on things, and Kitty was fine and everything was fine. And then we helped some people move, and after that, we decided that we earned another camping trip, and so we stayed gone. So that's why we were gone for a while. And we tend to do that. I've been a nomad my entire life, and Ron likes to travel, so we kind of compromised with the fact that he has a home, and so we just stay gone as much as possible. Sometimes we get stuck here longer than we want, but for the most part we are nomads. And when I first started my YouTube career, I was living in my van exclusively, so I do have some videos about a lot of these subjects, like basically whether or not to have a home base. And so if you guys are interested in that, you can watch some of the older ones that I have. I have some pretty good reasons to have a home base and not to have a home base. Right now, that's a big deal in the nomad community. I kind of noticed that like a couple years ago people were talking about it, but I think they're really talking about it within the next, like the last few months. And I'm wondering if it's just because camping season's coming up and they know that everything's going to be crowded, or if it's for some of the reasons that I know that like it's still possible to do lots of free camping, and LTVA is also a good possibility. And for those of you who don't know what LTVA is, it's a long-term visitor area on public land out in the desert in the United States. And a lot of people do that, and they just get a pass and they can go from camp to camp for like 6 months, or they can stay in the same place for 6 months and not get shooed away by a ranger, because they basically paid to be there, and they don't have to move every 14 days like in most sites. Also, there's a lot of sites that have been closed down due to natural disasters. Like for example, Death Valley has gotten flooded the last couple of years, and so a lot of the camps have been kind of closed down there. So there's just stuff like that. There's also during COVID, people abused being out in camping. I don't know if it's because they are just jerk-offs or what. I have no idea, but places got vandalized and were either permanently or long-termly closed. So there's that. There's also like normal closures where like the Department of Natural Resources or the Department of Forestry will say, okay, this area has been overused for X amount of years, so we have to give it time to recover, so we can't let people camp here for a while. And so that happens. And so all of this stuff right now is just kind of culminating, okay? On top of that, you have, people getting older that have been nomading for a long time, and so they can't send their mail to their mom's house anymore, so they need an address. Also, the United States has been getting a little bit more strict about that. They want people to have an address. Here in the state of California, if you are a van dweller, whether you feel like it emotionally or physically or not, they consider you legally homeless. And so there's ramifications that come with that, like you can't vote, car insurance gets a little harder. You're basically, if you don't have a permanent address, you are kind of fudging and you are committing some kind of fraud at some point, because I've had to do this my whole life off and on. You're basically telling people that your car is garaged somewhere that it's not. For insurance purposes, that's kind of sketchy. So you're basically saying, okay, I live at my uncle's house at blah blah blah, when really you don't. Or you're saying, I live in South Dakota, but really you live, here in California someplace. So I mean, it's just, it's kind of sketchy. So a lot of people are going, okay, maybe it's time that I at least have something that I can call my own. And it sounds like a good idea and everything. And I'm very happy for people. And I have been thinking about this. Like I said, I have videos to prove this, that I've been talking about this and thinking about it for quite some time. And I have had times in my life where I've had no home base, and I've had times where I've had a home base. And so I know kind of like the dynamics between those two. And so if you want to see those kinds of things, those videos are out there. Not just by me, but by other people who've had this conflict, because it's really hard when you're nomadic. Even if you've never done it and then you start doing it for a few years, it gets in your blood. So you can kind of take the girl out of the van, let's say, but you can't take the van out of the girl. The van life is still there. It gets in your blood, and you just want to keep doing it. And one of the best ways to do that and ensure that you can do that is to have several small places to go. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. They're saying, okay, I'm going to buy an acre here in this climate. I'm going to buy an acre there in that climate. And this isn't new. This is like not an original thing. A lot of people back east, if they can afford it, will do that. They will live, like, say, in Minnesota, and they have a vacation house in Florida, so they can snowbird and they got a place to go. That's great. But not all of us want to have a house either. One of the reasons why I do what I do is so that I could get out of a building, so I could get away from that kind of stuff. I want to go out and I want to camp. And sometimes I have been known to tent camp even though I was living in my van full time. Because to me, I want to camp. I really want to camp. So, and to basically be guaranteed to be able to do that, even if I have to go to the same place over and over again, kind of sounds appealing. So we were looking at pieces of property, and, if you're out in a desert, which is where we were kind of looking, where everybody's looking, because first of all, the cheap acreage that people can afford right now, a lot of it's out in the desert. Let's just be honest, okay? It don't matter if it's north high desert or south low desert. That's just what's like affordable right now for people to be able to do. So a lot of people are looking there, and a lot of nomads know the area because they go there in the wintertime, and so they know a lot about it. And, if you can find a piece of high desert that you can be in at least in the spring and the fall, that's like one place that you can have that's like a home base that's in between. So, because in the wintertime you can go down and camp for free on the public land. And then, in the springtime you can go stay on your property and, take care of business. And then you can go someplace up north, in the summer, and then you can do the opposite during, fall and winter. And that's what we were thinking. And that's a great idea, except for, you guys got to do your due diligence. You got to make sure that, you're not dealing with something shady, because I've been looking at this stuff for years, and I can tell you, a lot of the people that own these pieces of property out there in the desert, especially, they have never even seen it. They've never even been there. They're basically trading it like baseball cards. They're buying it from somebody else that's never even seen it and has never even been there. And so, and as an investor, and I'm not saying that all of them are like that, but a lot of them are. So you have to do your due diligence. You have to go there and you have to basically make sure that you're buying the piece of property that you saw on the internet. Because somebody could go down there and take pictures of this beautiful thing, and then you get there and it's in a wash, or there's no trees, or whatever. My biggest thing though right now, because like the smaller acreages aren't that big of a problem, and if you don't mind having neighbors, and that might be the best route for you, because for under 10 grand in some cases you could get a couple of acres and at least you have a place to park. All right. But if you want some privacy, and if you want to do what Bob Wells has been talking about lately, which I have noticed he's been doing, and you want to buy 20 or 40 acres or something like that, you really need to be on the ball and like pay attention, because I thought that was a good idea, and I still do, and we still are thinking about doing it. But we went out and we visited some of these places and these areas where they have basically pieces of property that are 20 to 40 acres for sale on what they call a ranch. Now, a lot of times when you think of that, you think, okay, it's a housing development that they named such and such ranch. And in some cases, that's what it is. And it's zoned for that. These places that we were looking at, first of all, a lot of them weren't even in anywhere near the place where they had advertised that they were. Okay. So that's a red flag, number one. Number two, you get out there and you realize this really is a ranch. And it's not a subdivision called such and such ranch. It is somebody's ranch that they have subdivided, and the cows are still all out there. And even if you own the piece of property, unless you can afford, and I don't know how many people can afford these days to fence 20 acres. Maybe some of you can. But if you can't fence your entire 20 acres, there's going to be this guy's cow that's still out there. And I'm not faulting the ranchers, because look, they got to make money, and the United States has screwed them. They're screwed. I mean, they got to do whatever they can by hook or crook to stay in business. And I hope they do, because I still want to have meat to eat. I don't know about the rest of you, that are omnivores and carnivores and all that. We need to have food. And literally, and I'm sorry, but you can't have fruits and vegetables without animal agriculture too. Sorry, well, a lot of the fertilizer for those comes from, manure. So, we need to have our ranchers, and I'm not faulting them. And if any of you ranchers are watching these videos, I don't blame you, and I'm whatever. But the bottom line is, you're buying this 20 acres that you really don't have the rights to. That's what it comes down to. Legally you do, but how many of us out there that are in the market for doing this and are living this lifestyle even want to fence 20 acres, much less could afford to fence 20 to 40 acres? So there you go. You've got this guy who's, and the piece of property next to yours belongs to that rancher still, and it belongs to that ranch, or it belongs to public land, because a lot of it butts up against public land, and the ranchers lease public land for their cows, which is a good thing. I wholeheartedly think that that's a good thing to do. But so you've got these cattle that are free range, and they're basically using your property where, like they always did, even before they sold it to you. So even if legally you have the land rights, physically you don't. So you either need to just not care about that, which a lot of us probably don't, but I do, because I don't like getting bit by horse flies. That's just the thing. I went out there and I got attacked by 4 horse flies, which is like no bueno for me. Okay, I'm going to camp to get away from crap, and I don't want to be bit by horse flies. So you either got to fence it off so they don't get anywhere near your stuff. So chances are you're going to fence off a little tiny section of it, which is fine. The cows are still going to come on your property, which for most part, that's no big deal. But really, I mean, the principle behind it, if you think about it, that's just like that's kind of crappy. You sell somebody a piece of property and you still get to use it for your ranch. Like, that's kind of not to me that, you know, I don't know. There's just some kind of little part of me that says, you know, so, and what's the chances of you meeting this person and being able to work out a deal and says, okay, look, use my property. That's fine. I don't care if your cows are on my property, but can you kick me down some beef every once in a while? Maybe there's a chance you can do that. I don't know. But, you know, that's what it's coming down to. You're buying 20 acres that literally, like, is being used by somebody else. Because, first of all, if you're buying it to camp on, you're not going to be there all the time. And then secondly, you know, and it may not sound like a bad thing, and it's really not that bad of a situation. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this is horrible, but I just want you guys to kind of be aware of that. Just be aware of, like, if you're going to go out onto one of these ranches, chances are it really is a working ranch, and you're going to be part of it. Just so you know, just to let you know, you're going to be part of this ranch, whether you want to or not, unless you can afford to fence the whole thing or want to fence the whole thing. I mean, not everybody wants to have a fence around their property, and that's their thing. But, you know, just so you know, and most people, like I said, they can afford to maybe fence an acre or two or less, so the cows aren't in their immediate area or whatever, and some people don't even care. But yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, you know, so you're buying property that you really aren't getting to have the entire rights to. And that's another thing. Make sure that you have water rights. Even if you're not going to drill a well, I don't care. Make sure that you have the water rights. Make sure that you have the mineral rights, the oil rights, all of this thing, because you don't want some company to come in someday and start drilling a well on your property because they own the mineral rights to it. You don't want that. So yeah, you got to do your due diligence. And when you go out there and you're looking at these things, you get like stars in your eyes, and you think that this is all the coolest deal. And you're looking on the website and you're looking at all this cool shit, but you got to make sure that, you know, you do your research. So that's the point of this video. So that's what we were doing. We were out there just checking things out and having fun and camping out and trying to find, you know, more free camp spots that we can go to in the future, and just, you know, and pay spots that aren't too bad, and maybe possibly, you know, looking at acreage to buy. But yeah, that's what it comes down to, guys. Do your due diligence. You know, look at what's really happening in the situation. And I know you guys are like adults, and you're going to be doing that, but I just wanted heads up, because I didn't even think about that. You know, it wasn't even like, it didn't even dawn on me until we're out there and I'm seeing people's cows, like, you know, and that's great. I love cows. I have no problem with that. I have no problem, you know, with it. I'm just letting you guys know that it could be a problem if you know, for some people. And like I said, the only problem that I have with that is horseflies, and really the principle of the thing. It's like, I buy this piece of property, but still the dude that I bought it from or whoever gets to use it for their cows. I mean, I understand the content, but dude, like, seriously, yeah. So that's just something you need to be aware of, you know. And if you can fence the whole place, if you have a problem with that and you can fence it off, great. If not, just so you know, that's just the way it is out there. And then another caveat to this conversation too that I wanted to bring up is, you know, if people can't afford to buy a bigger place, like, you know, say 10 to 20 acres or even bigger, you know, consider like designating camping areas for your friends to stay in, you know, and particularly like maybe a lot of your friends, and make it so that they're spread out so you don't feel like you're in a tent city, so that, you know, maybe your friends that can't afford to buy 20 acres could still be able to do that and have a place to go. I think that would be a very nice, courteous, nomadic thing to do, because some of us are broke, you know, some of us can't afford acreage, and it would be nice to know that, you know, hey, my buddy over here has some place to stay. And I know a lot of you guys are already doing that, but I just wanted to bring that up in the conversation too, that it's like, all right, you know, maybe our good campgrounds and places like that are going to go by the wayside, and so maybe we should preserve some stuff for people like us that are going to be good stewards to the land and all that kind of thing. And that's another thing too. Another reason why I think this is happening too is because, like, even if you pay for camping, it could be more expensive than it should be, because there's people that are like buying up reservations to campsites and even like golf clubs and things like that, and you know, selling them for inflated prices. So, you know, like camping is actually a little bit more expensive than it should be. So, yeah, so there's just all kinds of reasons to do it. So yeah, I just wanted you guys to like be aware of something that I kind of figured out. Maybe you guys have already figured that out on your own. But yeah, I just wanted, you know, you guys to have some awareness of that is possible that you're going to be buying into a ranch, a working ranch, and your land is still going to be part of it. So, but yeah, I just wanted to put that out there, and hopefully, you know, you guys got something out of this video. And if you did, please like and subscribe and do all that good YouTube stuff. And we'll talk to you on the next one. All right, bye.